Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another episode of Read With Me. I'm yours truly, I'm Isabel Bedell. I am here to read with you. Once again, we're almost done with this amazing book that we're reading for Money May. And it's crazy how time is passing by so quickly. Like, can you believe we're like almost halfway through the year? I still remember January, you know? In January, like we actually read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then in February we read Cash Flow Quadrant. I absolutely love the dynamic of like having a really good book and then diving even deeper within each book. So I'm really excited for the next month. If you don't know, we're going to be reading one of the most influential books that has hit Earth. Okay. And I don't say that lightly because this individual that we're going to be really digging deep into both 2 months, because this book is quite juicy. This individual interviewed 50 of the most wealthiest people in the world, and he's been able to summarize all of their unique strategies to build wealth. Like real wealth, not the get rich type of wealth. It's like get rich for sure, get rich forever. Your children's grandchildren's, they got money from what you did, right? Like if you're into that, then I really can't wait for next month, to be honest with you. I already started reading it because it's just so nice to hear like there's so many options out there, and like what we see on television, what we see on social media, whatever it is that you're listening to, even if you listen to your financial advisor, they can't even tell you half of the things that are in this book. So we've paid a lot. We've invested. I don't even want to say paid, but like we've invested a lot in our financial education, especially this year. And what I'm really excited about is like more than half of the things that we're going to be reading in Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game for next month. This book is going to be ridiculous. Like more than half of the book allows you to really build wealth from if you're 20 years old or 50 years old. If you're in those two ranges, like you still have so much opportunity, and there's so many different ways to actually build wealth consistently. So I'm just really excited for that. Going back to this book that we've been reading, Big Money Energy, this book has been so much fun, and it's a breath of fresh air. It makes me laugh out loud every single time that I read this chapter, because I absolutely love the way that it's written. I love the way that Ryan has been able to really share his stories, but also teaching you something, because I love when you can laugh and really enjoy something because you're really learning. You really open up that portal of learneth, the portal of learneth while you're having fun. So all right, so what we're going to be doing in this particular chapter, we're going to be going into being self-made. Okay, being self-made is going to be really good. Okay, it's chapter 10, being self-made. The last chapter that we read in this book is Evolve or Die. And I got to tell you, if you haven't read that chapter or you haven't listened to it yet, go do so. It was definitely a page turner, and it was really good. All right, let's get into it. Chapter 10, being self-made. Okay. Being self-made. Wood for sale, $50 a cord. Jack Ryan Wood. Ask for Ryan or Jack. It's 617-456-7890. That's, I'm guessing, their business card. I started my first business when I was 10, and I thought my plan was genius. At the time, my family was living on a farm outside of Boston. There was a forest surrounding our house that hadn't been touched since the 60s, and my dad was having many of the trees taken down to make room for a yard, a driveway, and to walking paths. One day, I was at the grocery store with my brother, begging her to buy Jello pudding cups when a sign caught my eye. It read, "Wood for sale." And I was like, wait, people actually pay for wood? I was picturing the never-ending rows of trees in our yard, every one of them now representing cold, hard cash. I had been living on a gold mine this whole entire time, and I had no idea. If my dad was just going to give the chopped down trees away, I could actually sell the wood as firewood instead and make enough money to buy the video camera I wanted. By the way, video cameras were very expensive in the mid-90s. As soon as we got home, I found my younger brother Jack, who was 7. My older brother had already moved out, so it was just us two. So I went up to him and I was like, hey, so I have a business idea. Let's start a wood business. Jack's eyes lit up. All we had to do is cut up the trees that are lying all over the place and sell it as firewood. And we'll actually call the business Jack Ryan Wood. We'll make tons of money. It's going to be awesome. Jack was down. He actually didn't really have a choice. And from that moment on, we spent every spare second we weren't in school chopping up trees with a dangerous gas-powered wood splinter. We pulled our meager cash supplies we had saved up from our allowances and discovered that we had $13.75. My father kindly agreed to lend us a few more dollars so we can place an ad for Jack Ryan Wood in Topsfield, Massachusetts newspaper. A few days later, my mom yelled to me while I was outside operating a potential limb-severing power tool. "Hey, Ryan, there's someone on the phone for you. He says he actually wants to buy some firewood." I couldn't have been more excited if Superman himself was calling. I picked up the phone. "Hello, this is Ryan of Jack Ryan Wood." "Wow, I'm on a business call." The guy on the other line said, "I want 2 cords. Can you deliver it? I need it delivered tomorrow by 5. That was the first customer's voice. My 10-year-old mind almost exploded. I was about to make $100. Deliver it? Oh, sure. I jotted down the address and hung up the phone. Wow. My first sale, and I nailed it. I'm going to be so rich from selling all these trees to cold Bostonians. I walked into the living room where my parents were reading and announced that we had made our first sale. My dad briefly glanced up from his newspaper. "That's nice, Ryan. Good job." I sold 2 cords and I said we'd deliver it. "So can you drive us?" I asked. My parents looked at me. I had just asked for 12 puppies. And that's when my mother delivered one of the harshest business lessons I have ever learned. She said, "No, it's your business, Ryan. So it's your problem. And if you want to be in your business for yourself, you got to figure things out for yourself." Oh, okay. I'm 10. It was a fairly big problem as it was clear that my brother's toy wagon could not accommodate such a large order. While I was standing there wishing I could snap my fingers and transform myself into a licensed driver, I heard a noise coming from the other side of the yard. It was Biff, the guy my dad hired to do some basic repairs in our jobs around the house. Biff drove a very large, bright red pickup truck. Wait a minute. Maybe I could cut a deal. "Hi, Biff. So, my brother and I started a business selling firewood. We made our first sale. You think you can drive us to deliver it? I'll cut you in." Biff shrugged, put down the extra sharp axe he was wielding, and said, "Yeah, sure, I'll drive you." Now we had sold 2 cords. To those of you reading who have no idea what a cord is, it's a stack of firewood that roughly measures 8 feet long by 4 feet high and 4 feet wide, and it weighs, wait for it, about 5,000 2,000 pounds. I hadn't really thought this through when I made the ad to sell. When I agreed very quickly over the phone to deliver it. Jack and I spent what felt like an eternity loading up the pickup with as much wood as we could, which ended up being only about half a cord. We would have to make 4 trips, and I definitely didn't tell Biff that. Jack and I hopped in the front seat and we were off. About 10 minutes later, we arrived at the top of a very long, winding country driveway. An older man, aka our first customer ever, waved at us. "Can you please drive it down to my porch?" he shouted. I replied, "Sure." I was already thinking about my video camera that I'd be able to buy if we kept making deals like this. Suddenly, I noticed that Biff looked kind of angry. "Hey, kid, this was not part of the deal." "No way, bud." I remember my mother's voice to always ask for things politely. "Can we please just drive the wood to this porch? It's not far." I didn't dare even to tell him we would have to do this 3 more times. How had I not noticed how scary looking Biff was until just this second? "Listen, kid, this is America, and I don't have to do anything I don't want to do." With that proclamation, he got out of the pickup truck, flipped a lever that raised the bed, and dumped 2,500 pounds of wood right into the ground with a deafening roar. Wood was blocking the entrance to the driveway. Logs were rolling out into the road in every direction. It looked like a forest had just exploded. Biff ordered us out of the vehicle, then backed out of the old man's driveway, drove over a log, and peeled off. I froze. The old man just looked at the mess and said, "Well, that's not what I'm paying for. I'll pay you when that wood is stacked up on my porch. And that doesn't look like the 2 cords either. I know my wood." I couldn't believe what was happening. This transaction had been going so well and was going to kick-start my newfound wood wealth. Now, it was going terribly, and I had no idea how to fix the situation. I wanted to follow through on the deal I made with our customer, but I also wanted to cry. How was I supposed to carry all this wood with my 7-year-old brother who I forced into this job? How was I supposed to tell this guy I had no way of getting the remaining wood to him? I wanted my mom. Sale is brutal, and I hadn't even made a full sale yet. If only my 10-year-old self knew then how much crazier it would be in the future when I swapped firewood for multi-million-dollar apartments. Now, I was cold and stranded on the side of Route 128 with a half a cord of wood and my 7-year-old brother. What do I do? Do we just leave and forget this ever happened? That seems mean. The old man would have to pick up all the wood himself. Well, what if he died while doing it? Would that make me a murderer? What if he called the police and we were arrested for being the worst wood sales boys ever? And I was so determined to get the full payment so I would be closer to having enough for my video camera. I decided I needed to seek counsel from my dad, and to do that, I needed to walk home. I looked at my tiny, shivering brother. No way was he up for the walk, so I shoved him in a bush. Sorry, Jack. I walked the 2 miles home, cursing myself the entire time. What was I thinking? Why did I promise delivery when I didn't have the system in place yet? How could I have subcontracted out such an important job to Biff? He turned out to be completely unreliable. I dreaded telling my parents that I was falling flat on my face during my first business venture. Why is the world such a cold, dark place? I always hated that red truck. I finally made it home and I fessed up to my dad about what had happened and said I needed help to finish the job and get paid. Part of me hoped I'd be wrapped in a blanket, shoved in front of the TV, and given a steaming cup of cocoa. What a terrible ordeal you've been through, son. Let me get it better. But that's not what happened. My dad was furious. Forget the wood. I had left little Jack in a bush on the side of the highway because I was too focused on making money and didn't care about anything or anyone else. He got his coat. We're going to get your brother, but you have to finish your job. You wanted this business. You made a commitment. You need to follow through or you'll never learn. When we arrived back at the old man's house, the woods seemed never ending. The next 6 hours were the longest of my short life. It was freezing cold, my arms ached, and at one point during the long, painful process, I sat down exhausted. I was close to crying again. My dad helped me back up. Ryan, I know this is hard, but this is the commitment you made. That means that no matter how you feel about it, you're sticking to your promise until the very end. Otherwise, your customers will never trust you about anything, and you won't have a business. But don't forget there's a big reward waiting for you when you finish the work. Do you want to do all this hard work for nothing? At that moment, kind of. All I could think about was going home. I finished the first cord, told the customer I was sorry for the bad experience, and let him know that I wouldn't be able to bring the remaining wood to his house because I didn't have a way to deliver it. He looked at me like he was looking at a dying baby deer. He looked at me like he was looking at a dying baby deer. That's half a cord. Yes. Okay, well, here's $25 for what you brought me today, and here's another 25 for the rest of it. You tell me where it is. I can have someone get it tomorrow. I remember my first business too. Deal? My eyes lit up. For one, I now had 50 whole dollars. I thought about being angry for a second because I wasn't the full 100, but then I realized that it was better than zero because I wasn't fulfilling my end of the transaction. Deal? Wow. All right, I'm gonna stop there and I'm gonna finish it off in the next video, part 2 of chapter 10, when you hit the crossroads. I'll see you in the next video.